right, what's up, everybody? I am Scott Smokin Silz, joined by our referee-in-chief from the Chicagoland area, Brad Baumruck. Welcome to the Ref Room, everybody. We've got a very special show today, so we're going to get to it pretty quickly, but I haven't had a chance to really talk to Brad in a while. We've both been busy. We haven't even caught up since the CCM weekend. So next week, we've got a lot to talk about, lots of situations and all kinds of cool stuff. But today, again, we've got a very special show, so I want to get right to it.
Yeah.
What do you get?
Before you go, did everybody get their IHOA swag? That's what I want to know. Because they should have. If you ordered it, I'm sure you're too cheap to order any, but that's okay.
I am. But I actually saw a lot of guys with like the lightweight, the little thin jackets over the weekend. So I know swag has arrived.
All right. Well, just to let everybody know, anybody that watches this, if you don't like that lightweight jacket, we understand it's too light. Wear a hoodie with it right now. Okay, we did not know that was going to be that light.
See, now I didn't go there. I did not go there. I did not go there.
I'll hang myself. We didn't know it was going to be that thin, so it's just, we're sorry. So, yeah. But it was still not.
It's cool. The sweatshirt looks great. So. I like that. I should have ordered a hoodie. That's very cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Now that we've gotten the swag mention out of the way, let's get to the show here, because the reason we're here, we've got some very special guests. First of all, Jana, thanks for helping put this together. Jana is the communications director for AHI, and she's helped coordinate the show for us, because our special guest today, we have Mr. Chad Green from the Huskies and Mr. Gino Cavallini from the Chicago Mission, because we are going to talk all sorts of things related to AA and AAA hockey. The differences, the costs, the route to the pros, the whole 9 yards. So thanks for joining us, guys. Glad you're here. And I guess we're going to kick it off real quickly. To start it off, like, tell us the difference if you're out there trying to make a team. Obviously, everybody wants to get to the AAA level. Everybody probably be very happy to get to the AA level. But what is the path for these guys to get to see teams and organizations like yours that they want to be able to play with?
I think for the majority of the kids, where they're going to start at their closest or local rink in their community, in their town, and then also where their friends, if they have other friends playing hockey, is where that starts. Typically, it's a learn to skate and a learn to play hockey format. And then from there, it's the introduction to travel. So each rink and organization is kind of different, but it's, I would say it's not a short path. And my big thing I will share is there are not many paths that are the same for each individual kid. So it's kind of different for everyone, but I think it's a good message to the parents to know, and even the child, is just because your neighbor's doing it this way doesn't mean that's the way that you should do it.
Interesting. So basically, if at what age group do you guys actually start looking at these players? I know we've now got mite teams that are playing AAA, and that's what, 8? Is that 7 and 8? 8 and 9?
7 and 8
and below, yeah.
Yeah. So the path for them even to start at the youngest age, they're going to a learn to skate, and they're getting picked up into one of these programs. How do you guys find these? Do all the players come to you, or do you guys actually go out and look for some of these players?
At our club, and typically at the Tier 1 clubs, there's a coach or a number of coaches that are running camps and clinics throughout the summer, and they're able to, figure out, who the kids are at those birth years, and, we'll go out and watch, and, you're looking for good little athletes at 7 and 8 year olds, and those are, we try to subsidize it as clubs. We try to subsidize the cost for those birth years and make sure they're getting a lot of touches on the ice. Typically, like at our club, those teams will be on the ice from anywhere from 2.5 to 4 or 5 hours a week. So they're getting, at a minimum 2 nights, if not 3 or 4, depending on if they're playing games on weekends, as much coaching as they can get with coaches in and around our club. So, we know the content is good, and, we know how hard to push or not to push in terms of, what they're learning and, what we're teaching them.
I also think it would be unfair to not mention that a lot of kids, after starting a Learn to Skate program, may choose to start with house league, or tier 3 hockey, as we sometimes call it. And, some kids start there and then kind of work their way up, and maybe they try to move to a tier 2. Maybe they don't. Maybe they move to tier 2 and then they make the jump to tier 1. But I think there's a lot of kids that is a path that makes sense for them in their development. And I think it's important to talk about that as well.
Well, let's talk about the costs involved in doing this. As long as you want to get on the path is not cheap, I'm sure. It starts at probably the house league level after you've gotten out of the learn to skate. So, I'm guessing it's a few $100 to get into a learn to skate program. And, you're going to get some scrimmages and things of that nature. But now you're serious and you want to get onto a team. So if you take the house league path and maybe you go into like the Northwest Hockey League, which is the house, they travel a little bit. The travel is they go from rink to rink in the local area. Even though it's house, they don't play in one rink. So they do move around. What is the cost and how many games a year, how much ice time do those organizations typically give to those players to get them off to a good start so that they can possibly jump into the next tier?
So for the in-house in tier 3, some programs at rinks are combined, some are separate. If you're strictly in-house, those programs run like 3-month sessions. I would say $500 to $800 per session. When you go to the tier 3, like the Northwest Hockey, you're looking probably around $3,000 for that season. What
are you getting for that? How many games are you getting? How much ice time?
So you're starting in September and going through March, which is the typical. We talk the hockey season. That's what we're talking about. A lot of for the Northwest, you usually get one team practice, usually shared, and a shared skill session, and then whatever your game would be. So you're getting one game a week, and then a total of the regular season is about 16 regular season games, then your playoffs.
And they generally do go on a tournament. They'll travel and they may do 1 or 2 out-of-state tournaments a season as well.
Okay. So that's going to be our Northwest, our basically like our tier 3 level. What's our next step from there?
Something else to mention about tier 3 is, that is hockey where like everyone's welcome, right? So the teams are selected. There aren't cuts in Northwest Hockey League. The teams are selected and they're tried to, the coaches evaluate the kids and try to create even teams, whether they have 4 teams or 2 teams, they separate the kids and, so that there's a good mixture from top to bottom of skill. But it's equal playing time. So it's a good place for kids who aren't maybe all in or, been playing hockey since they basically were born to kind of develop those skills and still get an opportunity to play in games, right? Whereas once you get to tier 2 or tier 1, you're fighting a little bit more for your playing time against other skilled players.
So if we were to make the jump now to AA, which is tier 2, what are we looking at? What is our path to get there? We've gotten to one of these teams. We've gotten to like a Nihil team. Are you out looking at those players and trying to find players, or are they coming to you in a tryout form and you're going to evaluate them? And, how many positions on that team, how many places are there available for those new players to jump into and go from there?
Every organization is going to be a little bit different. The path of going from that is, kind of why we have the good and bad of spring hockey. I'm a big believer in kids playing multiple sports, but it does allow them in the spring to have a 6 to 8 week session for kids to try that. So if you're a tier 3 kid looking to go to tier 2 or a tier 2 kid looking to go to tier 1, it's that opportunity to go and skate and practice with those organizations and those teams. I know for tier 2 in the summer, people have drop-in clinics. And as you get closer to the tryout season in August, everyone has an evaluation conditioning clinic type of thing. So there's plenty of opportunities there for that because there is movement, I would say, on every team year to year. Every organization is a little bit different. With that is, as previously the tier 3, there are no cuts. With tier 2, there is. So that can be based upon roster size, ability, how many people are coming back. So if we take a 12U team, they have 2 kids that have moved on. A certain team may only have 2 openings, where another tier 2 team has 5 or 6 kids moving on. So each team is kind of different in that regards. And then obviously the other difference, since we kind of started with this, is the cost of that. So I would say roughly the average cost of tier 2 is around $6,000 for that season of September through March. And the biggest cost with that is you're on the ice more. So typically for a tier 2 team, you have a minimum of 3 hours of practice during the week and then 1 home game slot. So you're averaging probably 4 to 6 hours of ice time in a tier 2 club per team.
Okay. Are they allowed to try out for multiple teams? I mean, can you just go to like every organization until you can find a spot?
Technically, yes. There is no limit on how many teams you can try out. I will say this, the clubs, organizations, and teams have kind of gotten smarter with that. Where pretty much everybody's tryouts are at the same time. So it's pretty tough to go from organization to organization. The window of tryouts at the same time frame and days, and just it's kind of what that's what spring and some of those clinics are for. So there's kind of the family and skater get to kind of meet the coaches and the teammates and the clubs, and you kind of should narrow that down, not going into 5 days before the season still looking at 5 different organizations and where you think your kid would like to play.
Well, I'm guessing that, you have relationships with some of the teams that you're going to get players from, I have to think. And, coaches talk, refs talk, coaches talk, everybody talks. Do you get a lot of referrals? And is that, what you're looking for in order to get somebody into that program that you're really going to take that serious look at, that may be a good fit for your organization, so that you can get them in there and prepare them to move on even beyond that?
Yeah, we always say the hockey world is, there's a lot of hockey people in the world that's very small. It's not that hard to run into somebody. And every club may be different what they're looking for, being referenced to someone, but most hockey directors know each other. They pick up the phone like, hey, so-and-so skating here. What's the scoop on him? Like, is he a good kid? Is he a bad kid? Is there problems with the parents? Is he just looking for a change? Like, there's just honest things that happen with that. It's if you get into it, we were just having a conversation with Gino was telling us before. He's somewhere and there's someone on the other team that he played pro hockey with, or if people don't know, 10 years ago I stopped officiating, so I still know reps. So the world is really small, and there's not very many secrets left. I'll say that.
That is so true.
The big question everybody always wants to know is like, are the parents referees? They don't want them. So, no, I'm kidding. I gotta say something. I'm not doing
how did you get on it?
Today.
How did you get your kids on those teams, huh? If you're a referee. So Chad, you're thinking it's
my wife's name.
$6,000 for playing Central States, the AA level. Does that include travel and everything else? But you've still got equipment. You've still got summer hockey. You've got other things. What's a realistic number for somebody to go in? If they said, wow, if we really work hard, we could possibly pull off the $6,000. Is that realistic, or is $6,000 is like the entry point?
No, $6,000 is probably the entry point once you add the travel and then the tournaments. And it just, like, every team is different. You may have some of your AA teams that are going to do 2 local tournaments and one in Detroit. We have other teams that, a 14U team, we've already been like to Detroit, we've been to Buffalo, we're going to Dallas. So are you driving or flying? So, the equipment is, you can save money there, from that regards, but in a 6, your travel and tournaments, you're probably adding another 3 to 4. So you're probably maxing out around 10 would be a realistic cost.
Times have changed. When I was growing up, so I played for minor Hawks and junior Cougars, but when we traveled, there were times when we got in the car and went for the local stuff, but there were also times when we got on like a team bus and we did that. You've got guys flying in and you got people driving, and they don't travel as a team anymore. for most events, or is that just like for maybe your Central States games where you're not that far away, but it's far enough somebody might want to fly versus drive?
I don't. Gino can handle it. Like for the tier 1, they travel way more, but for tier 2, everyone's kind of on their own. There's an occasional team or organization that'll do the bus trip. But I think with everyone being busy, usually people have multiple kids in multiple sports. Everybody's work schedule is kind of different. So some people are driving in a day early. Some people are flying in 2 hours before game time. Pretty much every team is on their own at the tier 2 level.
Okay. So let's take the jump now to the AAA level. So, Gino, once you've got the players in the Central States division, do you know all the players that you're looking for and what you're looking for? Or are you more in a recruiting standpoint where you're going, I need to find 2 centers this year, or I need a defenseman? Are you looking that way, or are you just looking for the best possible talent you can get to get them in there? And are you talking to other teams? If Mission's full, are you talking to Fury? Are you talking to Windy City? Are you talking to the other AAA teams that we have?
I mean, all the clubs, we all communicate amongst each other. And so if I'm full, I'll let, Darren, or I'll let, the Reapers, we'll make a call to make sure, like, hey, we got this good player. We just don't have room for him. But, we're looking for the best players, local. We don't bring in a lot of, or we try to stay away from bringing in kids from out of state because there's enough talent here. And, we want to be better every year, and more. Our philosophy at our club is the more talented kids, the more group of talented kids playing together, the better they show when they get older, and they look better instead of, you have one stud on a team that he's got to do everything by himself. He doesn't show as well typically if he had, 2 other line mates that could help him along in the process. And so, that's our philosophy at our club. A lot of clubs do the same, have the same thought process. As far as costs concerned, we're anywhere from, depending on the club, right? Anywhere from probably $6,000 to $11,000, and that's, at our level, the cost. Like, I know at our club we set budgets, and it's all predicated on, ice costs. All of our teams have off-ice training twice a week. We've got a nutritionist that talks to all the teams in the club, the girls and the boys. We've got a mental strength coach that, psychologist that works with our boys and girls. That all adds up. And then, obviously the coaches, they spend 5-6 days a week at the rink. It's not like, you're at the rink once a week and you have a couple of games on the weekend. I mean, some of our teams are traveling 6 to 8 to 10 times a year, out of state, searching that top competition, or at the older levels, we're looking, we want to get to Detroit to get our kids in front of the NTDP, or we want to do a showcase that there's going to be a lot of USHL coaches or, a showcase that showcases the players where there's colleges coming to watch these players perform. So there's kind of, there's a cost, but, there's a little more. Like, let's say our Pee Wee major team is on the ice 3.5 hours a week. And if they're not playing on the weekend, they've got another up to 3 hours on the weekend, on a Saturday and Sunday. So, there's a cost associated with that. It's not like, we're a club and, we're just flush with money. It doesn't, we're not-for-profits. We run it down. Our fees are, we run it down to zero at the end of the year. Our fees cover the cost of, operating over the course of the season. And that's, it's just the more ice, all the other little things that you add into it, is where that money goes, and why the cost is, if, Detroit, you look at a location like Detroit where tier 1, let's say it's half the price, but they're paying $250 an hour for ice. I mean, where can you get ice in Chicago? Even the park districts are charging, they started figuring out that, the private rinks are charging $500 an hour for ice, and we're only charging $300. Why aren't we charging more? That's what the going cost is. And, that's how the ice increases here. And in Detroit, it's done a little differently. and their ice costs are significantly lower than they are in Chicago.
Well, with that being said, I mean, do you see a future of more rinks coming into play with these high prices? I mean, is this what they need to be able to survive, or are the rinks just really doing that well now? I mean, everybody seems to be pretty busy. Do you have trouble getting ice time at your facilities?
I mean, there's no ice available. I mean, once the season starts, I mean, we give, like at Fifth Third, we give back ice, and either the Stallions scoop it up or the Jets scoop it up. I'm like, the ice doesn't go unused.
Yeah.
If there's certain nights where we need more ice, and on the weekends when we have teams traveling, we typically don't need as much. Or like teams are traveling, let's say, for instance, next week, with Thanksgiving, or the following week with Thanksgiving, we're giving back a lot of Wednesday night ice because there's teams traveling for Thanksgiving events, that sort of thing. Is there a need for more ice? I mean, if someone, the problem with adding more ice facilities is there's an inherent cost to the land and, the cost to build the rinks. Construction costs have gone up. So, you build a rink, you got to have you need user groups in the rink to support the debt on it. Otherwise, at Fifth Third, we're fortunate that the Blackhawks own that facility. So there's an opportunity for them to have great programming in the, for the inner city and the, Chicago public schools. They come in during the day, and it's all, it's all funded through, the Blackhawk Foundation. They do tremendous, the Wirtz family has been phenomenal regarding that, but, not every rink is blessed with that, with that kind of money backing them. So when you're looking, and I get people all the time saying in pro forma, what do you think? In St. Louis at one time, they were going to build a rink, and a bunch of former players were going to build. They sent me because I knew it was in the rink business. And I looked at the pro forma, and I'm like, yeah, it all looks good now. But in 5 years from now, when you can't service your debt payment, someone's going to be looking for my head to roll. They're going to be blaming me on it. So I can't endorse it. And, you just, I mean, look at Canland, look at the Leaf Center. I mean, no one understood what it meant at the time when they were building these, or they were, getting taxpayer money to build these and, float bonds for it, that, these numbers are so fattened up that it's impossible. Like I saw a pro forma for Leaf Center at one point before the construction where they were going to generate $500,000 in goalie lessons at a rink. Like, if you don't know what you're reading, and these people are investing money, think, oh, that's great. If no one questions it, well, what happens? What did Canland end up buying Romeoville rink for under $2 million? It was a $17 or $18 million build-out.
Yep.
They're definitely making money, but that first group couldn't make it work.
Yeah. Well, a lot of them do come in and buy them when they're, on a fire sale, and that's when they manage to seem to hang on to them. And we've got a big company that has a lot of rinks now, and they don't do a major investment in them, but so I'm sure they're very profitable for them, especially at what they're charging for the ice. So I totally understand. So I want to continue this because, everybody that plays hockey, obviously their goal is to get to the NHL. But the reality of it is, what do you have, maybe 600 players that are playing in the NHL at any given time? Let's talk about the path, Gino. You got there. How did you do it? Did you start it? You got to a AAA team. Once you got to the AAA team, what did it take to get to the next level? Was the step to go to a junior program, a college? I mean, if you really are passionate about it, I had one player on my team that made it to the NHL, Steve Richmond. He made it to the Rangers. But it's rare. It's far and few between. How do you get there?
I mean, my own situation, I didn't play. I was a kid that got bullied as a little kid. I was a short, little, fat Italian kid that got bullied in the schoolyard every day. And then one summer when I was 13, I grew 8 or 9 inches, and there was hell to pay. And I had no remorse in what I did. I played by the rules. But someone took me aside. My father was, he was an immigrant from Italy, didn't speak much English. My mom was Canadian that knew how to skate and taught us how to skate, but didn't know much about hockey. And coach pulled me aside and, mentored me through, my Bantam years. And as I got older, I moved on to junior hockey in the city. And I had a coach that mentored me through junior hockey. And, I was afforded an opportunity to go to Bowling Green State University and play hockey for a coach by the name of Jerry York. And, he believed in what I was able to do. And after my sophomore year, I turned pro. I signed as a free agent. My brother went a different route. He was a bigger boy when he was younger. And, he had all the junior, I kind of paved the path for him, but he was a bigger player. He was drafted to the NHL out of junior hockey in the city. And, he went that route. He was drafted, went to college, played on the Canadian national team, and then ended up in Washington. It was a different route. I mean, today, I was a late bloomer. You could say I was a late bloomer at 13 or 14 where I made that jump. Today, we see players all the time that, you would have never thought, this boy at 14 would have gotten. We had just recently a boy came out of the club and is playing junior hockey. He's committed to Wisconsin. Jack Phelan is a good example. He was undersized as a Bantam minor and was a hard worker. And the family, the mom and dad, trusted the process and listened to what we said. And, he went on, played a year of midget hockey with us. He played all his youth hockey with us, played midget hockey, played USHL, and was able to understand and listen to the messages we were giving him about, puck handling ability, and move the puck and keep it simple. And he's a captain at Sioux Falls this year. He's drafted by the Detroit Red Wings last summer, and he's following Coach Hastings from Minnesota State to Wisconsin next year. So, awesome. If someone told me when he was a 13 or 14-year-old that that's the path he would have had, I'm like, he's got the ability because he's got hard work. He's got a good work ethic, smart enough to listen, and he made it. But, there's players possibly that were better than him, on those younger years that, they're still trying to find their way through, junior hockey and college hockey. It's every single player has a different route. And,
we had a gentleman on our show a long time ago that is basically an agent for the youth players. And, he picks them up at a younger age. Yeah, I didn't,
they know
David and, do these guys have a lot of communication with you guys? And do you help, or do they help really get them into the programs that they belong in order to move forward, maybe to get to a good college scholarship at a good school? Or
well, you know what, it's a good question, because now they're going younger and younger. There's a lot of family advisors, and the NHL agents for non-professionals are advisors, and so it's hard. It's hard for them. And we've got a lot of friends in the city. There's a lot of advisors in the city that work with agencies or own their own agencies in the city that will tell you you don't need them necessarily. I mean, we at our club, we do that as our club. We represent our players. So at the end of the day, the college, like a Mike Hastings, he can talk to an advisor. I've coached the boy for the last 4 years. So who's going to know this boy better than your coach? So they're coming to ask us, which is funny, because they're not asking us what kind of a player he is. They always want to know what kind of a person is he and what are the parents like. 2 questions we get asked all the time. And a lot of times, you see it over the years. The parents, you have no input. Once they leave youth hockey, and even at our level, you have no input. We know what we're doing. We're, if you think you know more than me, you're wrong, because I'm the one who still asks questions. I don't know everything, and I'm in it as deep as you can get, right? So you just have to trust the process. But at the end of the day, whether you have an agent or you're drafted or undrafted, your advancement is predicated on your performance, right? So, you see all these players getting tendered at this time of year to junior hockey, or even in May and June, there's the futures draft, and then there's the main draft, and then there's this draft. That's all fine and dandy, but at some point in time, at some camp, you got to perform. And if you don't perform, it doesn't matter look at the Blackhawks. They've, look at the Blackhawks draft picks. These are professional hockey players that have been drafted very high that still can't make the Blackhawks lineup because it's predicated on their performance.
Yeah.
So it's all noise at the end of the day. And I coach a 15 U team right now, and I tell my guys, hey, today's no different than any other. The national development programs here, you got USHL guys and you got colleges in the stands. Figure it out, play your game. And in fact, I started keeping track, especially after the pandemic. There's colleges and junior teams that have our live barn is locked down at Fifth Third for practices during the week because I want to track who's watching, and I know who I've given the code to. And there's coaches that will watch your 10 season practice. I mean, the junior team not as much as a college team. For a high end player, they got a lot of they've got money invested. They've got their reputation invested in this player. They want to make sure. So they're going to watch these boys in practice when they're 15, 16, 17 years old. And if you don't think it doesn't happen, it does. Wow. Kids will laugh and like, oh, you're full of it, coach. I'm like, all right, see the guy up there. I mean, there's a couple of scouts at USHL GMs that live in Chicago that they're at the rink every other night. They're at the rink. I mean, Mike Eaves at one time when he was in Wisconsin used to come down on Wednesdays and watch our 16s and 18s practice. And then you wonder why, like our 96 birth year, I think we had five of our players were Badgers while Mike was head coach because he would come down and watch these kids practice. So, there's more to it than just the advisors and what the club does. But at the end of the day, it's all performance based. If you can't perform, you're going to have a tough time.
Well, you've touched on some great points. And so I want to go back to the statement you made about the parents. What are you looking for in the parent? No, I'm really serious about this because, parents, some of them get a lot of flack for certain things. I'm not saying good, bad, right, or wrong. But I would like, if parents are watching, I'd like to know what the coaches are thinking about the parents if they are going to take these kids onto their teams and into their programs. What are you looking for in a parent?
Just support your son or support your daughter. Simple. You bring them to the rink. You tell them, have fun, work hard, and then, did you have fun and work hard after practice? Simple, or a game. It's, we don't know who those parents were talking about, until the season starts. And then, if a parent's giving hand signals, like, hey, I need your son to focus on what our coaches are telling your son or daughter, not what the signal you're giving them in the stands. It just, and we'll get junior guys and college guys will come, and once they meet the parents, you think they're not doing their homeworks on the parents? They don't want to be getting calls on a Sunday. Tony Granado's telling me 3 years ago, you'll never believe he had 2 parents call him on a Sunday wondering why their kids aren't playing. As men, they like these kids. Like, come on, it's embarrassing. Like, if those boys or those young men knew that their parents were calling, they'd be mortified. So what are we looking for? Just, hey, be supportive. You're at a club for a reason. We know what we're doing. We've got all the experience. We've got a track record. Trust us. Trust the process that we put in place, and enjoy the ride because it's a long one. It doesn't happen overnight, and there's no rush, especially the way hockey's changing now and college hockey with the player portal and the NIL money. I mean, it's a totally, it's new, and it's tough now navigating through it, even for people like myself who've been involved in it as long as I have.
You just got Gino is the best. Truth. That is so true. And I appreciate that. Chad, what are your thoughts, when you're working with the parents of your players?
No, and I agree with that. I mean, as a parent, be the parents. You're not the hockey guy. I know it seems kind of mean and rude. And even for my child, I do this for a living. And once my kid got to be 12, I think I stopped coaching him because it became too much of a father-son thing and put him with the right coaches and the right people. And then, you kind of touched base on, the agents and advisors. And as he got older, I did get an advisor for him, but I can tell you who his best advisor ever was. It was the head coach of the team he played for. That's where you get the truth. And all I would ever ask, Gino said it, was to tell my kid, work hard, have fun, is what I told him from the time he was 5, even to this day. He's fortunate to play NCAA Division III hockey. He texts me before every game. Have fun, work hard, right?
Yeah.
And at the end, it's the biggest thing I say for the younger kids. Just be a parent, be the cheerleader. Not like, I won't even help a kid do math homework. I don't know why people that don't know how to coach hockey want to tell their kid how to play hockey. That's kind of my thing. When you get in the car, I don't even ask my kid or any of the kids how it went until they want to talk about hockey. Then I'll talk about hockey. And as one of the things I had to learn as my kid got older was, my reply was, do you want me to reply as a hockey coach or as a parent? It's way two different answers that I give. And I prefer to get more of the parent that you did great, could have done better, but I liked your effort, and let's have a better week this week than we did last week. Or you had a great game. Can you have 2 good games in a row? But it really is just be a supportive parent. The coaches, if you're in the right organization, which people that are moving shouldn't be chasing best teams, especially at the lower levels. Find good coaches. That's where your kid's going to get better. And the hardest thing, as Gino brought up, is my kid went from Tier 2 to Tier 1 to juniors to colleges. Practice matters more than anyone can think at the end of the day. At the upper levels, if you don't like your playing time, I guarantee you it's related to your practice habits or your lack of execution in practice. There's a reason why Tier 1 and Tier 2, they practice, like my Tier 2 club, we have our kids on the ice 3 hours a week, a 1 hour game on the weekend. Think about it.
Hey, I got a great example of that I saw today, and I was surprised. I had to go to Fifth Third early today, and the Blackhawks are practicing. I thought they just played they were just in Florida, right? So I'm putzing around the rink because I knew I wasn't going to be there tonight, so I want to make sure it was set up for all the teams that were going to be playing tonight. And who's the last guy on the ice tonight or today shooting pucks?
Bedard.
Connor Bedard was one of the last guys. I mean, after everyone's gone, and to his credit, like it's not by fluke that he's that good. I mean, obviously he's got a skill set, and he sees the ice visually, but he's got a work ethic. And like for my kids, and I'll tell this to any parent, what's the best advice I can give my kid? Do the work. If you're in a weight room, don't be half the guys will be working hard, half the guys are goofing around. Don't be in that group. Do the work. All right. When you do the work, no one can see. You're not cheating. And then when you get on the ice in games, you're so used to doing the work that it's second nature. Do the work.
Great advice. There you're hearing it from the best of the best there, right there. Parents, we see them in the rink. We see them standing off to the side, trying to coach their kid, banging on the glass is one thing, but I've seen some of them with a laptop set up, trying to keep statistics and stuff. I mean,
hey, Scott, hold on, Scott. I like to. I'm sure Chad and Gino already know about this. Just for the pleasure of all the coaches, I'm sure Live Barn's added some new features for the parents. Boy, I hate to be in your guys' shoes. I don't. Sorry, I'm not going on those things. I'm the quiet parent. I just come, I show up, I look at my kids, and then I go, here you go. Have a nice day. I'll see you later.
Is that the highlight reel you're referring to?
Yeah,
that's not the highlight reel.
I guess as a parent, I would just like to say, well, everything they're saying is absolutely correct, right? You can't be crazy. You have to, let your kids do their thing. They're the one playing the game, but it's hard, I think, a lot of times for parents, at least in my experience, from what I've seen, when you're spending so much time and money on something, right? You expect a certain outcome. And that could go for what you expect out of your kid and also what you expect out of the club or the coaches or the people working with your kid. So sometimes you got to take a step back and realize, and remove yourself from that a little bit and look at it. Like Gino said, it's a process, and there are definitely peaks and valleys in it. And it is long, or at least it feels really long. So, but I think that is one of the reasons that, at least in my experience, when I've seen parents on my kids' teams, when they are, so worked up and get kind of crazy about things, it is because of the time and the money, and obviously everybody wants the best for their kid, but it's, when you look at it from that point of view, it's hard not to get worked up about it sometimes. So as a parent, sometimes you just have to take a step back and like remind yourself that this is your kid doing this. This isn't you. You have no control over it.
Well, let's go back here, because if you're really serious and you're trying to move up that ladder and you're trying to get to the AA, the AAA level and beyond, what are all the basics that any player needs? Like, I don't think all the organizations, a house league team's not probably going to be able to provide off-ice training. They're not going to provide the weight room. They're not going to provide the nutritionist, things of that nature. Chad, why don't you talk about what it takes, if you don't have those things within your organization, and maybe you can't afford to go to that type of an organization, you want to get better so that you can get into a AA program or a AAA, what should those players be doing or trying to do as far as all those things are concerned? What do they really need to get there?
Honestly, I have a phrase that we talk about, and it's build the athlete. You can do a lot not being on a sheet of ice at a young age, whether it's running and jumping and I talk about, there's a big difference of when we were kids, everyone in this room was at the playground and you rode your bike, and you could play any sport growing up. You may not have been good, but you could compete and it was fun. Where now it's, it's great getting beat, 20-0 from a 7-year-old playing a video game, and it's astonishing to me how their minds are like that. But I think they can use some of that to do stuff at home. Especially beginning up in every tier club. We're fortunate at our organization where we do have off ice that's built into the fees. We do have video stuff that we use that the kids get a breakdown of their stuff and teachable. Because of that, the kids are more video dialed in now. They love it. But I would say, if you're just starting out, the multiple sport thing, I loved hockey, but I couldn't wait till baseball season started every summer. And as soon as it was 2 months into baseball, I couldn't wait for hockey. So that's my big thing, is just be an athlete. We go back to Gino talking about Bernard, but he really didn't learn how to shoot a puck until he was 14 and broke his arm and sat in his basement or his garage and just shot pucks all the time outside. There's the famous dryer of Sidney Crosby shooting pucks. There's so much you can do off ice, but ultimately, I keep it simple. Build the athlete: running, jumping, agility. It's basic. The better athlete you are, the better chance you have. And then in return, when it comes down to it, it's the practice thing. You have to work hard, and then if you can work hard and understand the game, you have an advantage. Doesn't mean you're going to make it, but you have an advantage. And just work hard.
So at the AA level and your Central States, you've got your group of teams that you play against. You're in one league. You compete against all these different teams. But let's talk about, if we go to the AAA level with Mission, you guys have different leagues that you can choose to play in. Am I correct? Not all 5 of our AAA teams play in the same league. They have different leagues that they compete in. Can you explain a little bit about that? And then how does it work? How do you guys decide who goes to what leagues? If you're, I think the Reapers were the newest team. I don't think they got into your high performance league. I think Fury plays different.
We don't have we're not in the high performance league as well. We pulled out after last season. So I think the only club right now at the older levels, at the midget levels, is the Fury is in the tier one league. And that's more of it's not as much a league as an opportunity for those clubs to come together and showcase themselves in certain locations. They go to Detroit. They go out east of Boston. They go to Phoenix. They go to Blaine, Minnesota. So that club is the only one that's in a league per se right now. And so for us, we're more focused on showcasing our players. So we have these showcases. We have, like we did a 4 clubs a few years ago with Buffalo, Little Caesars, Pittsburgh, and us, and everyone hosted an event, and it was highly recruited by, we had a lot of junior and college, we had one event here in Chicago. We had every D1 team in the country was here watching. I mean, those are events where we want to showcase our players, and that's what we gear up with. We don't need to play. We're not at the older levels. You're not playing games just to play games. Like, you're playing games because you want to expose your kids. Or at least that's the philosophy at our club. We're not going, we're getting away from as you get older, you get away from out east or out west. Go to Detroit. The national program is there. The NTDP is there. Go to Detroit. Stay in Chicago. We're centrally located for USHL. We can go to Blaine and piggyback on the North American Hockey Showcase where all the schools are going to be there. And now, once they get tired of watching that hockey, the end of the week, they're over watching, some of the top midget teams in the country play. So there's a rhyme and reason why we schedule what we schedule now. And then at the younger levels, you don't want to go into Detroit. We were in a league where we're going into Detroit in 3 games, we're scoring 45 goals and nothing. Our kids aren't getting anything out of it. So we kind of pulled back and we left the league we don't know how long, we're going to be out of it, but we're not going back to the league. And the league is kind of on a hiatus this year because, if we're going to Detroit, we want to make sure we're getting value. We want to play like teams that, are consistent with the development model that we have and, the kind of competition that, to go to Detroit or we'll go to Canada. With some of the teams, we'll go to Canada and do Silver Sticks where we play a wider variety of teams. We play the top Canadian teams, the top U.S. teams end up at those events. We're trying to maximize the money that these families are spending. So why are we going to Florida when no one's going to go watch a game in Florida? So I'm not taking my U15 to Florida. I'm better served go to Detroit and play 2 games in Detroit where I know you're going to get the NTDP guys and a couple of USHL guys will be there. What's more valuable? Go to Florida because it's a great vacation, or you can have that conversation on Pee Wee Quebec. It's the same thing. I did the budget for it. You go up there for a 2-game guarantee and you're spending almost the same amount of money as you'd spend for your entire season's ice fees. Because of the position I'm in at our club, I see, who needs assistance and, who can and can't afford to go where and when. You just got to make sure you're not, pricing people out of it as well.
Sure. We got a couple questions up here, so let's take this one. Jay Sidney says, Romeoville coach, that would be the Huskies. Where do you see the Bantams in your club end up? High school hockey or Central States? I want to talk about that, Chad.
Yeah, I think, again, it's about choices. And I think we talked about where we're starting hockey. And I think at the age of 14 and 15, the game changes for a lot of people, whether it's some people that serious may not be, the guy that you didn't think was going to be like the Jack Valen's a great story of someone who just starts to figure it out at 14. People are more interested in academics. Boys and girls are a factor. So I think with anything else, I'm pretty open-minded. And I think really the ultimate goal for Tier 2 and Tier 3 is that we just want kids to continue to play hockey no matter what level that is. So whether you stay and play Tier 2, which can be a combination of Nihil, Central States, Independent. We've had teams that only play in Detroit League before, just do tournament teams. I think there's a lot of options. It's just not a cookie-cut answer. And then going into high school, you have more choices with that of continuing to play midget hockey at Tier 2 level or play for your high school. And I think like for us currently with the Huskies, we have 4 Bantam teams. So that's roughly 70-some kids. And I'm going to tell you, there's 3 or 4 different paths of all 4 of those teams. Each one's kind of individual. And what I do as a hockey director is I support their decisions and help guide them where they want to go. The kid that says, at 14, I like to play hockey, but I just don't see it as a future. All right, what are you going to do? I think I'm going to play trumpet in the band. Good, go do it. We have other kids that are trying to go play AAA. Here's your path. This is what you need to do to get better. So I don't think there's just a simple answer for that. And I think we, as a state, we need to be more open to that. as Gino's talked about, I mean, it's good hockey at the top, and it's hard to get there, and maybe even harder to stay there. So we just do a better overall job of supporting, and if kids want to play hockey, find the right level for them. Actually had a conversation on the way here, and team won the tournament. They were so happy, and I go, yeah, but you shortened the bench, didn't you? This is a 10U team. And they go, yeah. And I go, so could you imagine what would happen if you lost and you shortened the bench? Everyone think you're the worst coach in the world. But because you won, you're the best coach in the world. So it's a double-edged sword at times with that. And that's why the Bantams, it's a way different answer if they're 10 than if they're 14. And it's even harder when they're 17 and 18. So I just say support, let the kids have choices, and help guide them to do the right path that's appropriate for them. And I think Gino's story with his brother is great. We talk about this all the time. There's no two paths are the same. And just look at him and his brother, the same family. Grew up the same, but they won different accolades, and they were very fortunate, and it's great that they ended up playing together in NHL. So it's a long shot, but it's great. But it's two totally different paths they both took to get there.
All right, this is one for Gino, for the mission coach, with Fifth Third getting expanded, which they've talked about possibly having 2 more sheets of ice in there, or at least one that would be a multi-use facility. Why can't we see a D1 team out of the Chicago area like UIC used to have? It is a perfect location, and if they do build that stadium, even if it only holds, they're talking maybe 4,000 people, obviously great for smaller concerts, but would be a great location. Why don't we have, with all the great hockey we have in Chicago, why can't we get a D1 team in Illinois?
That is a great question. I played against UIC back in the early 80s, but I honestly, it's mind-boggling that with all the universities in the state, starting up at the University of Illinois, and then you come up into downtown Chicago. I have no idea. Honest to goodness, and that doesn't even take into account like a women's girls college team, Division
Right.
I team. We've got plenty of talent here. I mean,
Yes,
all
we
our
do.
girls end up playing D1 college hockey somewhere. I mean, it's
Right.
I mean, obviously, it's got to do with money, and I think Title IX has a lot to do with it as well. So, do you take, if you're going to add a men's sport, you're going to add a women's sport. It's fair. If you take a sport away, you got to take the other. You got to take it away on the other side. I mean, I don't understand. I think University of Illinois was set prior to the pandemic. And then I think the costs are. I think they're still maybe, they may be talking about it, but I just
Is it just going to take the right donor making the big donation that's going to say, I'm writing the check, and now we're going to have a D1 team? Is that what it's going to take, you think?
Oh yeah, it's gonna take a big check, but then you can, on the other side, you can look at Michigan with all the D1 men's hockey teams in Michigan. Name one of those schools that has a women's Division I hockey team in Michigan. Name one school. It's why I just don't understand.
Yeah.
It's a great question. Sorry, I don't have a better answer for you.
Thanks for that, Jay. That's a good question. All right, we still got, you guys got a few minutes left. We're kind of coming up on an hour here. We really appreciate you guys joining us. Phenomenal conversation today. If you have more questions, put them in the comments, people, because you don't often get a chance to speak to someone at this level that can actually give you the answers that you're looking for. And I think we've really hit a couple really good points today.
Hey, Scott,
Yeah.
I think it's, worthy of noting, if somebody doesn't want to comment here, they can always send you or me an email, refroombrad, or refroom_Brad at gmail.com.
Refroombrad.
Over to Gino or Chad.
Yeah.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Refroombrad@gmail.com. Yeah, we will definitely forward those out.
you.
Now that you've given your email to all the bots that are out there, you should get a few.
Okay. That's all right. It's better than hockey emails. I'll take the bot emails all day.
All right.
So, but I'm just saying, in case somebody's not
Anything
interested
that
in
we
asking
didn't
here.
touch on that you guys would like to talk about that maybe you feel is really important for players moving up and developing, or parents, either way?
I just want to say, even at our club, and it's happened with my own kids where, they have a dream, and at some point in time, you come to a realization that your childhood dream is not going to come true, and it's okay. One of my sons played Division One, another one of my sons played D3, and he had as much fun and he got a great education like my older son. And I've had other kids come through the program and they're like, they'll call me and Gino, what do you think? I'm thinking about this. I don't want to really be in and out of lineup at Division One. I want to get a good education. I want to play hockey. I think I'm going to commit to this Division 3 school. It's okay. You're still playing hockey. There's nothing wrong with it. And at the end of the day, if you're good enough, like I went to college. I was going to get a 4-year degree and go to Europe and play hockey because I had an Italian passport. I wasn't drafted out of junior hockey. So that, for me, I had already pushed that away. It wasn't until, my second year at Bowling Green when Jerry York, like halfway through the year, is like, hey, you got to get an advisor. You got some NHL teams interested. I'm like, whoa, what do you mean? I had no idea. I was clueless, So, but even these boys are playing ACHA, is maybe a lot harder, but boys playing D3, hey, if you're good enough, you're good enough. Like it's like how do you end up at our club or any of the other Tier 1 clubs? At some point in time, the cream is going to rise to the crop, and someone's going to say, hey, you got to go look at this kid, and we do. I mean, we're all ears. We've got relationships with directors like Chad and across the city. Like, and the nice thing is that they understand. Like, I know the relationship we have is they're willing to call us and say, hey, we got a kid. He's got to play at your level. We'll look at him because they're doing the same thing as we're doing at their level. They're trying to move them, they're trying to move them up. And we're fortunate to have, friends like Chad, whose son actually played for us. So he knows what we're all about. And, we're not here BSing anyone. If your kid is good enough, we'll do everything we can. But at the end of the day, they got to perform, So, I mean, it's a long road, and there's, the biggest thing today is these boys are all in a rush at 15 to go play junior hockey. There's no rush. There's not. If you were that good at 15, you'd be playing at the national program. Everyone else, you're taking a chance because it's not as easy as you think it is. Yeah.
Gino, I'm going to point this out just from being a Chicagoland person. If you aren't able to make one of the 5 AAA teams here in Chicago that are at the top, going and playing normally in those junior levels that you want to run to real quick at 15 or whatever, normally doesn't advance you the same way. And you can stay here and live with your parents and not have to do the billet family thing and still have the same family thing and play some of the top levels of hockey right here out of Chicago, whereas a lot of the players that do go to those areas don't have that opportunity in their hometown. I just want to point that out. That's just a Chicago thing. I'm just pointing it out. We're very blessed here if people don't realize that. Yeah. So, sorry, Gino.
We got facilities. We got talent. We got a lot going on here, folks. Chicago is a really good hockey market.
But then they, I'll kind of chuckle when, I'll talk to some parents and they'll say, oh, they're talking about their 15-year-old. Will we let him make the decision? I'm like, okay, when do you let your 15-year-old make a life decision? Life-changing decision.
Gino, I hear that from the 8-year-olds now. Yeah. So.
I'm lucky I let my 15-year-old dress.
Well, this is a really good question. This comes in from one of our regular reviewers, Karen, who is a personal trainer here and takes care of a lot of the people at the rink. Karen wants to know, do you have scholarships or such for players who have the skills but not the money? And that's a great question because I know your organizations do have some money behind them. Do you take players in based on their talent if the parents can't afford it?
Yes. I mean, Gino can speak for the Tier 1 level, but Tier 2, I know our organization and many other ones, we do have hardship funds that are for people with that. And that we also, I can tell you, even if people don't know about it, we try to put it out there. Other clubs that I've been at that have named it in honor of people. I can tell you, like this year for us, no one applied for the hardship fund. Then last week we've had a family who with with cancer. A young player lost his dad a couple of years ago, and his mom got diagnosed. For us, we did it as a board just to help people out like that. So all levels, there's stuff out there, and there's a process for that and for people that do need money, because one of the things that if we started this conversation an hour ago, it is expensive. So there is, for the people that do need help, there are avenues to help them for sure.
That's I mean, that's the same at other clubs are the same.
Yeah.
I mean, I know since I've been at the Mission, I've been at the Mission since 2011. We've never turned away a player because of financial reasons. We've never turned a player away. So there's the beauty of this sport is along the way I've met people that are very generous and appreciate what we do as a club and how we try to help as many kids as we can. And they've been very generous over the years. So it's not like we've instances where a family on a team has helped another family out and don't want anyone to know. Just there's some great people we've met over the years that have done more than people know.
Yeah, I'm aware of a lot of them out there, and I know that is the case. So it's a great community. We really do have a great hockey is a great community, and you're going to have friends for life. I mean, I could tell you, even at my age, I still communicate with some of the guys I played with a long time ago, and they've all turned out to be good people. It's a great game. You learn so much, so many life characteristics that you can take with you. And that's why, when we did have the pandemic and things going on, it was very disappointing, because these are life skills that these players are missing out on when they're not able to, get to these teams and do what they do to become better people and better trained to move into, whether it's the business world or the athletic world, whatever the case may be. So I'm a huge proponent of, people taking up a sport. You learn a lot from it. And, if it's not hockey, let it be something else, but you're going to get those life lessons. All right. With that, I got to thank you. Gina, thank you so much for putting this together. Really appreciate it. On behalf of AHI, we've got Chad Green from the Huskies. Thanks, Chad. It's great to have you back on the show. Gino, always a pleasure. He's been here before as well. I guess I'll throw one more thing out there. Bedard's got 13 points. He's leading all the rookies. Pretty cool to see somebody that, got all this hype. Can he live up to the hype? And he is living up to the hype, which I think is even cooler. What's your prediction for him in the future, Gino? You've seen his work ethic. You get to see him at the rink every now and then. The real deal, huh?
I mean, he's a generational player. I mean, his name, he's in the same breath as Matthews, McDavid, Crosby. I mean, he's a special person. It's pretty cool. Now it's like the last run the Hawks had. You got to surround them with the right people.
Has he come into any of your locker rooms and talked to any of the players and shared anything with them?
No, I don't go on that side. They don't let former Blues players.
They don't let the St. Louis Blues players on that side of the building. All right. Well, that's a good way to wrap it up. Don't forget, everybody, we do this every Monday, 5:30 p.m. from Chicago. The replays are up on YouTube. You can catch us youtube.com/refroom. You don't even have to put the C in anymore. It's just youtube.com/refroom. We're on Facebook, but please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button, and you'll know when we're on. We try to do this weekly. I mean, there are occasions, especially in the summer, where we need a little break too. I think we've got over 150 episodes up there now, and we've had some great ones just like we did today. So we are very fortunate to have such talented people on our show today. So thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. Brad, great to see you. We will talk. We'll catch up from the CCM tournament and lots of stuff that's been going on, because we haven't been together for a couple weeks either. So we'll chat it up next week. So join us next week, 5:30. I'm Scott Smokin Silz, along with my man Brad Baumruck. Our special guests from the Huskies, Chad Green. We have Gina from the AHI Communications Manager, and we've got Gino Cavallini from the Chicago Mission. former St. Louis Blue. We'll give you a plug right there, Gino. We're not that way.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, guys.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for your time, everybody. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next Monday, 5:30, right here on the Ref Room. Peace out.